Hey everyone, it's Brett, and I'm back to bring you another great author chat. My guest today is the #1 best-selling author of 50 novels, including the Amish Memories series and the Letters from Lancaster County series. She holds a bachelor's in history and communication and a master of fine arts in creative writing. She enjoys research trips, church history, and hiking. Her novels have won many awards, including the ECPA Bronze Sales Award. She's a finalist in the 2018 Carol Awards, the Romance Writers of America Award, and the big one, a Christie Award. We've got a lot to talk about today with author Leslie Gould, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
All right, Miss Leslie, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Brett.
It's so good to have you
A privilege
on.
to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I think to get started, let's talk about where are you from? Where you call home?
I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I was born in a little town in Oregon and then spent all of my elementary and high school years in a little town in southeastern Washington. So, I'm very much a small town country girl. And now I live in Portland, Oregon. So one of the bigger cities in the Pacific Northwest.
I've never been there, but it looks beautiful.
It is.
And you guys live in an area where it's kind of comfortable to get out and do things. Like I live in the South in Arkansas, and past May it's too hot to get out and do anything. So.
Oh, yeah. Yes, yeah. I love summer. Summer is my favorite time of year. Yeah, lots of hiking, camping. Yeah.
So where do you go
walks.
hiking?
In the Cascade Mountains. So Mount Hood is about an hour away. The Three Sisters Wilderness over in Central Oregon is about 3 hours away. And then the beach is just over an hour away, the other direction, west. So just, lots of places to go.
So what do you do when you're hiking? Is that just like a hike up and a hike down, or do you like take a picnic up there? Kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, it just depends on how far the hike is and that sort of thing. Sometimes we'll take a picnic. Yeah, lots of times it's, like a 3-hour, day hike. We also do a lot of urban day hikes around here, too. We have a forest park, which is an incredible park within the city. And so, lots of options.
Yeah. How often do you go to the beach? It's so funny. I live nowhere near a beach. And the people that I've talked to that live near beaches, they're usually like, oh, we never go.
Oh.
Like, how can you not go? It's within driving distance.
Yeah, we go several times a year. We try to, every couple years, get a place at the beach for a week. And then just a couple weeks ago, we hadn't been to the beach for several months, and we were like, let's go to the beach. And, we just went for the day and, did lunch and went on a long walk and went to the outlet malls and drove home.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That sounds like the perfect day.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so let's switch to writing. For people that maybe don't have any authors in their life, what does a typical day of writing look like for you?
Okay. Yeah, so years ago, I saw in a Starbucks cup, they used to have messages, which really dates me, on their cups. But it was like there are morning people and evening people, but there are no afternoon people. But it turns out I'm an afternoon person. And it's not that I get up early, but I'm not creative in the morning. I can do chores, I can run errands, I can do my marketing, I can catch up on emails, I do research. So I do all that sort of thing in the morning, and then I save my afternoon time for writing. And I try to get in a good chunk, 2 to 3 to 4 hours of writing. Yeah. And if really having a hard time really concentrating and staying with it, I'll go to a local coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
And, I have 3 within walking distance and just set up camp. And I just get energy from being around people that I don't need to interact with. So that's usually how I do my day. If I'm on deadline, then I have to write in the morning too. I can't pamper myself that way. But so that's how typical days look.
I'm actually kind of like you. I'm a writer as well. I'm an author, and I tend to have my best creative time in the afternoon, even into evenings. I'm a huge night owl. So a lot of times I'm still writing at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So, yeah, it's funny how different everyone is. Although one thing, I think that's interesting that sometimes you go to a coffee shop because you kind of feed off of that vibe of having other people around that you don't necessarily want to talk to. And I'm the total opposite of that. Like, for me, I don't even like to have music playing. I had, what was the lady I had on just a few weeks ago? Anyway, I'm blanking on her name at the moment. Tony Shiloh. I had her on a few weeks ago, and she was talking about how she loves listening to music. She has a playlist that she listens to. I need dead silence when I write. So yeah, I don't think going to a coffee shop would work for me. Do you listen to music when you?
I'll listen to instrumental music, but I get distracted if it has lyrics. For some reason, the coffee shop noise is just background noise, and it doesn't bother
usually
me.
People aren't acting crazy. It's just kind of a quiet lull.
Right. I do have to make myself not eavesdrop on conversations.
Do you really?
I just okay, don't do that. Because, I love listening to people talk. You get all sorts of dialogue ideas.
Yeah. I sort of say, or you could be like, ooh, that's good, I'm using that.
Yeah. So I just try to, it's like, don't do that, Leslie. Not your business.
Exactly. But you can always put it up here for future use if you ever want. So I love that. I love hearing about different authors and how they operate because as many as I've talked to, we all do the same thing, yet we operate on such different levels. It's amazing the way God created us, isn't it? So different.
And
you
have to figure out what works for you. For so long, I kept trying to make myself a morning writer. And actually, if we go on vacation and I'm on deadline, for some reason, I can get up. I'll get up 2 hours earlier than everybody else and write for 2 hours. And it works on vacation, but I can't get it to work at home.
Yeah. So when you have a deadline, how does that work when you have a deadline? Do you know what the deadline is as soon as you know you start writing that book? Do you say, okay, I've got so many months to write this. Here's how many words a day I need to. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So as soon as I signed the contract, before I signed the contract, we worked through the deadlines.
You're button heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I just figure out, how many words I need to write a day to meet that deadline. And then at the beginning, I never write enough words a day. And then at the end, it all comes really quickly. So it balances out.
Yeah. For me, it usually takes about 50 pages, usually about 10,000 words or so to kind of hit the stride. And then it seems like once that I get that first 10,000 words or so down, it just it flows from there usually. Yeah. So you have written over 50 novels and sold over 800,000 units. That is so amazing. Over the last 2 decades. Tell us, how do you juggle a busy life? So I'm assuming you're a wife, you're a mother, all that. How do you juggle all that plus write books?
Yeah. Well, 10 years ago was different than now. 10 years ago, I was writing 3 to 4 novels a year. I was teaching 1 to 2 college classes a semester. And my youngest was still in high school and, varsity soccer and super busy and all of that. So that was a pretty crazy time. And actually looking back on it, I'm not really sure how I did it.
The grace of God.
Yeah. And so now I'm no longer teaching and I'm writing 1 to 2 novels a year. So now it just seems so much easier than it used to. But you know how it is that you have less to do and then somehow it still takes up the same amount of time. Now we have 2 grandkids. So my 4 children are all adults now, but we have the 2 grandkids and they live close by. So we spend a lot of time with them, which is just wonderful. So I've always, did my writing and my teaching around family, and it worked. It was essentially able to be a stay-at-home mom, to be totally available to my kids, but still have this writing career and then, to teach too. So I feel like, family still comes first, and just having these grandkids is just, we don't take it for granted. And
Yeah.
Like you just really want to pour into them when they're little if you can. So I'm back to
enjoy 'em.
balancing kids and writing.
And you somehow make it work. I'm always impressed by authors because I'm a single guy. You know, of course I've got parents and friends and everything, but I'm like, I don't know how people with families do it because families take a lot of commitment, you know. And you sometimes, and I'm sure you have days when you're just like, man, I need to write, but because of life, I just can't. Or do you make yourself do it even if you can't?
Yeah, no, there are days I can't, and then I write on the weekends, and I mean sometimes deadlines are pretty ugly.
Oh, I bet. Are they pretty tight?
Sometimes, and I used to, 10 years ago, I'd go away to the beach for 3 or 4 days where I could write 10,000 words a day, and just knock out a novel. And sometimes my husband and I will go away for a long weekend where I write, we go on walks, he reads, watches sports, just so I can, really up the word count. So right, you do what you need to do.
You do, yeah. So you taught, you said you taught at a university. Did you teach like creative writing or?
Yeah, I mostly taught in a first-year learning community, and I taught English comp and argument, which I loved. These were mostly first-generation college students, and I'd have them over to my house for dinner, and we did a lot of field trips and things like that. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. And then I did teach creative writing some too.
Oh,
so,
okay.
it was a great experience. Yeah. And I know I learned so much more from my students than they learned from me. I mean, I just feel like it changed me as a person.
Yeah, so. It does. It's amazing just working around these young minds that are they're just starting their lives. They know what they want to accomplish and just how to get there. I love it. It's such a fun environment. Yeah. So how many do you? I said in the beginning that you've written about 50 books. Do you know what the magic number is? How many have you written?
52.
52. Okay. Because every single one of them counts. That's 52 blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So writing is a process for authors. You learn as you go. Can you tell us, is there something that you didn't know in the beginning that you've learned over writing 52? Can you kind of answer to a couple of things to that effect?
Yeah, I absolutely can. I love this question. Yeah. So some of the things I've learned, one is go the extra mile on research. You'd find another person to talk to interview, read another book, find another story, go to the location if you can. That's not always possible, but if you can, because you get a whole different vibe. If you can actually be in that place, walk in that place, pretend you're your character. What did your character see? All of that.
Exactly. What do they see?
The first
what
thing.
Do they smell? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. The second one is listen to your critique group. If someone has a problem with something, don't just gloss over it. Dig into that. If your editor has a change that you don't agree with at first, dig into that. And maybe you're not going to agree with your editor, but they probably have a point. So, and if another writer, if they read your book to endorse it and they say, okay, I love this book, but I have a problem with this one thing, take that seriously. So, believe the experts. The next thing is, write that first draft fast. Think of it as the scaffolding. You have to get the scaffolding up to build a tall building. You need that first draft up. Like I outline like crazy, so I kind of know where I'm going. But get that first draft done and then spend your time rewriting, editing, polishing. So, and then enjoy it. Sometimes, especially when you're on deadline, it can feel pretty heavy. But this is an amazing process. And, you as a writer are so blessed to be able to do this. Like when I was kind of growing up and wanted to be a writer, I thought everybody wanted to be a writer. And then it was like, no, not everybody does want to be a writer.
No.
So I think if you have that, if you're driven to do it, just embrace it. It's an amazing gift.
Yeah, and I know I think a lot of people do want to, but they just never do it. But yeah, I do agree with the part about just get it done. That's what I do. I don't worry about how pretty it is. I just want to get that initial story down. Then you can pretty it up later. Most of the fiction books that you write are in the Amish genre. How do you immerse yourself in the knowledge to be able to write that style of books? Do you know Amish people? Do you live near an Amish community? Kind of take us a little bit into that.
Yeah, I definitely don't live near an Amish community. The last Amish community in Oregon joined a Mennonite community over 100 years ago. And
wow.
someday I'd love to write about that. But yeah, I don't. But so this is how I got into it. You know, I do have to say I have Anabaptist ancestors, and I've been to Switzerland where the, Anabaptist originated, and where the Amish originated. And I was fascinated with the Amish since 1987 when I took a trip to Pennsylvania, and it was like, wow, this is really incredible. So when I started writing contemporary women's fiction, my agent kept asking me if I wanted to write Amish fiction, and I kept saying, I'm not qualified to write Amish fiction. But he paired me up with Mindy Starnes-Clark,
She's
who
phenomenal.
lives... Yeah, she's amazing, who lives in Pennsylvania, and we started co-writing. And our first Amish novel, The Amish Midwife, won the Christie Award and has sold over 100,000 copies. So it was a huge success. So Mindy and I went on to write 5 Amish novels altogether, and then we also wrote a series about the Huguenots from France. And then, so after I, wrote with Mindy, I had contacts in Pennsylvania, and then I found contacts in Indiana, and, just kind of all over. And I started writing Amish fiction on my own. And now one of my really, really close friends is a woman who left the Amish in her late 20s, and I met her at a book signing. She just showed up accidentally at a book signing, and we started talking. And we really bonded over adoption. She has a daughter adopted from Korea, and I have a daughter adopted from Vietnam. But anyway, we've gotten really, really close. And she reads all of my manuscripts, before I send them off. She helps me brainstorm.
Oh, okay.
So, that's been such a big help because, I know I don't get everything right. And anything I get wrong is my fault. But I feel a lot better about it, having her input and her perspective. Yeah. Plus a lot of research trips. And I rely a lot on scholarly books about the Anabaptists. There's just some amazing scholars out there. And also first-person accounts. So
Yeah. I'd never heard of the Anabaptist. You said that's where the Amish started?
Yeah, so the Anabaptists are kind of it's an umbrella term for Amish, Mennonites, Hutterites, and other, some Brethren groups are Anabaptists, and it means second baptism. So back in Switzerland during the Reformation, the Anabaptist groups wouldn't baptize their infants, and the Swiss government really wanted them to baptize their infants because that's how they got people on the tax rolls. And because they, instead they didn't baptize until people were older, usually late teens, until they could make a statement of faith, and we're really sure that that was the direction they wanted to take. So
I've never been huge into reading Amish fiction. I've read 3 or 4, probably just in the last 2 years or so, and it seems so interesting. In our crazy, chaotic life, there just seems to be something so amazing about the slow-paced life of the Amish.
Yeah, and that they've been able to keep their culture intact through all these centuries. Like all these other groups, like the Huguenots came over from France, pretty early to the New World, before it was the U.S. And within a couple generations, they were completely absorbed. There's one Huguenot church still in Charleston, South Carolina. But all the rest of them, either end up being Church of England or something else. And it's incredible that the Amish have been able to keep their faith and their lifestyle. And it's not that the lifestyle doesn't change. It's not totally static. It changes over the years. But
Yeah.
you know, really, they've kept their ideology and their, you know, faith really intact. So.
Yeah. So do you think the lifestyle, and this is just a supposition, I know you're not in the Amish lifestyle, do you think the Amish lifestyle sort of changes as the younger people sort of grow up in the ranks, you know, once the older Amish start dying off? I wonder if like little changes happen just through that process.
Yeah, you know, but their philosophy kind of in approaching change is, will this change bring us closer to God and closer to each other, or, you know, farther? So that's like the idea, like horse and buggy. You know, you have a fight with your husband, let's say. You can't get very far in a horse and buggy, right?
No,
Not as far as you can get in a car. And, you know, like telephones. Once, you know, telephones came in, you know, in the early 1900s, then they were like, why would we want that in the house? It just interrupts family time. So it's like, okay, we'll put one in the barn or in the phone shanty. So, you know, we have it available, but, you know, it has to be purposeful to go out and use it. You
and
know,
if you
we're
have
not
to
just
walk
going to be
out to get to it, you're going to make sure you really need that.
So I think now, you know, that's the same thing. Like some Amish people will have cell phones for their businesses if they need it, right? But they, you know, they're supposed to really need it. But another thing is like with mental health issues or brain health issues. And I mean, you just look at, you know, as a society, you know, we finally started addressing mental health. The Christian church as a whole was a little slower, but it finally got on board. And now, you know, the Amish community is starting to address brain health issues more too. So they're, you know, they're kind of behind, but you know, I see just, you know, more intentionality and, you know, more information and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so.
that is so fascinating. Do you ever hear from Amish people, like, what are the chances that the Amish people read books about Amish people, fiction books?
Yeah.
do they
so,
do that?
Yeah, they do. So, you know, I haven't heard from an Amish person directly, but like one time Mindy Starnes Clark was in a shop in Lancaster County, and the Amish clerk recognized her name on her credit card and said, oh, I've read your books, I love them. And, you know, like, oh, you get them right, you know, kind of that sort of thing. And then my friend Marietta, who grew up Amish, like she had a, you know, I always acknowledge Marietta in the acknowledgments and everything. And one of her Amish cousins had read one of the books and contacted her and said, oh, I saw your name in that Amish book. So yeah, I know they do. They also read a lot of other Amish, Christian fiction. So I've connected with a family in Indiana, and the first time I visited them, one of the oldest daughters, who was in her late teens, had read one of my books, and was, you know, she like recognized my name and was talking about it. And, you know, I'll go into Amish homes and they'll have just stacks and stacks of books from the library. Right? They're big readers, you know, no radios, no TVs, no computers in the house. You know, in the evening you like either quilt or read or do puzzles, you know, that sort of thing, play games. And the father of that family, I asked him what his favorite genre was as far as fiction, and he said it was World War II fiction. So here they're, you know, non-resistant, and, you know, which is a form of pacifism. But, and I just thought that was really fascinating. But they're, you know, they only go through the 8th grade formally, but they're so self-educated, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I know that the homes that I've been into are more open to outsiders, of course. And I mean, I can't say that they're typical Amish because, you know, I don't know. But the people I met are, you know, just very informed and educated and, you know, very literate and, you know, big readers and curious about the world and other places and all of that.
I didn't realize they only went through the 8th grade. Like, are they allowed to go past that? Like, if there's a student that's just really loves school, can they go like through the 12th grade or go to college if they want?
Yeah. So I'll just speak from what I know, and I know, you know, things are different for different districts and that sort of thing. So it's an 8th grade education in an Amish school. And then after that, they can do, apprenticeships, they can do correspondence courses, that sort of thing. But for someone who wants to go on and, finish high school, go to college, like if they want to become a doctor, they wouldn't join the church.
Okay.
They wouldn't join the Amish. And because they, wouldn't join, they wouldn't be shunned. They're only shunned if they join the church and then leave. So if they joined the church and then decided to leave to go to college, and become, a doctor or whatever. But even the shunning depends on the district as far as what that involves. Yeah, so it's not, sometimes it's portrayed as there's no contact, you'd never see your family. Again, I've actually, no, I guess that does happen, but that's not the norm.
That's
usually,
the extreme cases.
Yeah, usually there's, relationships are maintained and that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. That was the very first Amish book I ever read, The Shunning by Beverly Lewis, my very first one years ago.
Yeah, that started it all.
Yeah, did it? Did that start the whole genre?
Yeah, that started the genre. Yeah,
Wow,
and that was with
interesting.
Bethany House, who's I've been published by Harvest House as far as the Amish fiction with Mindy, and then Bethany House.
Yeah. So how about we get into the book? Again, for those that are listening, it's called When They Met Again by Leslie. Okay, I should have asked you this before the podcast. Gould, is that Gold or Gould?
Yeah, it's Gould.
Gould, okay.
Gould.
Leslie Gould, When They Meet Again. It's already published. It's live everywhere. So if you want to check it out, there's a little bit of a love triangle that's a focus on the book. Tell us a little bit about that. And for listeners, we're not going to give any spoilers. This is still a relatively new book that's been published, so we're going to be careful not to give any spoilers. We're just going to tell you enough that's going to make you want to hopefully run out and buy it. So
Yeah, that's our goal.
that's our goal.
Yeah. Well, the main character is Joanna, and the other main character is Adam. And they meet, and Adam wants to court Joanna, but she won't court anyone that she's not friends with first. So
A good
she won't court
policy, I
him.
think.
Yeah, right. I think so too.
Yeah.
So Adam moves to Florida to the Amish community down there, Pinecraft, and Joanna becomes friends with a young man named Jacob Byer, and then after a while she starts courting him. But over about a 3-year span, she and Adam, she goes down to Florida, she sees Adam, he comes up to Pennsylvania, to Lancaster County, and there's this spark that they can't deny. But, then she's courting Jacob, and then Jacob breaks up with her, they get back together, and then finally Adam moves back up to Lancaster County, and Jacob breaks up with Joanna again. So kind of, the question is, what's Joanna going to decide here?
Yeah.
With one guy who didn't want to be her friend, just wanted to court her, and another guy who she was friends with but didn't turn out to be very trustworthy. So
Yeah. Well, and I thought this book was a very, guys, this is such a good book. If you like Amish books, you definitely want to read this one. Even if you don't think you like Amish books, you ought to give it a shot. I never really imagined Amish people being in a love triangle, an Amish person being in love. I just, in my mind, they don't do that. So I thought that was an interesting concept.
pretty much
they
everything.
Have the same. Yeah, they have the same romance issues that we do.
And the same issues on everything else too, parenting, marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love seeing that aspect of it. Now, I'm going to show my nativity here. In the book, Joanna, it's been about a month or two since I've read this. Joanna, is that her name? Mm-hmm. I thought it was very interesting that she actually had a career. She had a career flipping houses or decorating houses. I did not know they did that. And again, this is my activity. I thought they peddled apple butter in the market, and stuff like that. I didn't know they actually had careers.
Yeah. Yeah, Amish people are, known for their craftsmanship, in carpentry and all sorts of things, building houses. And, they're, it's really common for Amish people to go, help, like if there's been a hurricane, tornado, flooding, like they were in North Carolina after the, big flood, building tiny houses for people to live in. So they're great craftspeople.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've seen some of their woodworks, like at Christmas bazaars and stuff. They're very talented. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Joanna and her job, what she does. I probably didn't do that very well.
Yeah. So she works for Adam's grandparents, Becky and Ike Slaybaugh, and they have a business flipping houses. And they also do renovations for, people for their houses. Mm-hmm. So Joanna, and they have a couple rentals, and, definitely in Lancaster County, you have lots of Amish people who have rentals for tourists and that sort of thing, or, just basic rentals. So she cleans the vacation rentals. She helps decorate or stage the houses. And,
Mm-hmm.
Not as elaborately as a lot of staging, but, enough to help sell the house and that sort of thing. She helps, choose paint colors and, appliances and light fixtures, all the things that go into flipping
making a house pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
thought
she
that was
loves
just
it.
so interesting because I was like, I didn't know the Amish did that. So I learned something reading this book. I guess it was naive of me to think they didn't do stuff like that. So, and I do want to tell readers, this is book 2 in the series. If you want to read the series in order, tell them what the name of the first book is.
Yeah, the first book is The Shop Down the Lane. And the thing about the series is you really don't have to read them in order.
Okay.
I don't have any characters that cross over. The theme that connects everything are the circle letters. Each of the 3 novels has a circle letter in it. And they're all at least partly set in Lancaster County. And they all take place in the same year. So they all take place in 2025, kind of at the same time, which was kind of, fun to think about. That.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about these letters. Or especially about the one in this one, because that is a big focus of the story. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, okay, so the circle letters or the other letters?
Whichever you want to do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about the circle letters.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a circle letter. So a circle letter is a letter that's passed around, and this used to be pretty common in historical times. Everybody did this, but now
Like passed around from family to family, or
or just between a group of people with a similar theme. Like in The Shop Down the Lane, the theme is birding. So it's a whole bunch of people interested in birding, write about what birds they're seeing, where they're going, and they pass that around. So in this, and when they met again, you have a group of grandmothers who grew up together and are now, like praying for their grandkids and, maybe doing a little matchmaking on the side or hoping that they can. And they start a circle letter to go around, between the grandmothers. Yeah.
So there is an overlying question in the book that talks about, can men and women be just friends? Tell us what you think about that.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that part of the inspiration for this book was when Harry met Sally. So my book, When They Met Again, is, of course, very family friendly. So, I tend to watch movies and then kind of forget, all the content. But, but in...
That is a good movie, though.
Yeah. And, the question of that is, can men and women be just friends? So yeah, I absolutely think women and men can be friends. I think of colleagues I've had through the years and, what good friends they've been to me and how much, I think this idea that whenever a man and a woman are together, there's, the possibility of some kind of sexual tension or threat or temptation, I think that really inhibits a lot of friendships and a lot of work that can be done.
It does.
Just a lot of collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely think men and women can just be friends. And if, there's something else going on, just get away from that if it's not appropriate.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, mind your own business.
Yeah. And move on if you need to. Yeah. Well,
right.
That's kind of what I think too. Honestly, my best friend is a girl, is a female. And I just think if a man and a woman are going to be friends, they both have to only want to be friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if one has feelings and the other doesn't. So that's if one of you has feelings, that it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, and again, I think a man and woman can be friends because as a man, I'm not attracted to every female on the planet. You know, so it's possible to not be attracted to your female friend.
Exactly. And if, you know, either a man or a woman is attracted to everybody on the planet because of the opposite sex, there's something wrong.
Yes.
That person needs to go get help.
You might be a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely a scary person.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was an interesting quandary in the book because I was like, I love books that make you go, what do I think about that? So and that question just kind of popped into my mind as I was reading it. I'm going to be a little bit vague with this next part of the question because this could sort of easily go into spoiler territory. But Adam did something to Joanna in sort of a deceptive manner, but he didn't do it with malicious intent, but it was a little bit deceptive. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that without giving spoilers?
Yeah, I'll try.
That was a very cool storyline there.
Yeah, right. Adam's intentions were very good. You know, he's trying to reach out in a subtle way, and I think that was fine.
Yeah.
But Joanna's a super curious person who just digs and digs and digs and can't let anything go. And you know, Adam hadn't really thought it through, like what her reaction might be. Yeah. And so she's digging and digging and digging and asking questions. Then Adam becomes deceptive. And at that point, he, you know, crosses the line because what it does is it messes with her trust issues.
Yeah.
So I think in life, you know, kind of a little, you know, like sometimes a little deception isn't going to lead to harm.
Right.
But once you kind of turn the tables to, are you trustworthy or not?
Yeah.
That can do harm.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think that happens to all of us. How many times have we just did something without completely thinking it through, and then in the end you're like, oh, man, I shouldn't have done that. What was I thinking? Mm-hmm. It's a human thing.
Yeah. Right. But why didn't I think, what's the trajectory of this going to be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't always look back with 20/20 vision. So do you think when it comes to small lies of admission, do the ends sometimes justify the means?
Yeah, again, I think once it starts to cause harm or, you know, really mess with someone's sense of well-being, then I think then that lie of omission definitely can cause harm.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not, it's not justified.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're not advocating for lying. We know what the Bible says about lying, guys. We're just having we're talking about things that the characters encountered in the book. So I love it. So in the book, I ran across something that I've never heard of. A couple of characters have coffee soup. What in the world is coffee soup?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. Coffee soup is sweetened hot coffee poured over bread, like chunks of bread with milk. And it's just a quick, easy meal. And from what I've read and heard, often like Sunday morning before church, you know, it's just a quick meal. But one of the reasons I really love that is because when I was little, so both my parents were depression babies. My dad was a depression kid. My mom was a depression baby. And we used to have milk toast sometimes on Sunday night, which I never hear about anyone ever having milk toast anymore. But it was just buttered toast that you poured warm milk over and sprinkled sugar over the whole thing. And that was like a depression meal that my mom's family had. So then when I came across coffee soup, I was like, oh, wow, this is, you know, a tastier version of what I had as a kid.
Yeah, of course, you have to like coffee. If I drink coffee, it needs to not taste like coffee.
Yeah. So maybe yours would be with with creamer, lots of creamer in it.
Exactly. Yeah. So have you ever had coffee soup? Did you ever?
You know, yeah, so I'm kind of embarrassed to say this because I'm just thinking, why didn't I just make coffee soup? No, I've just read about it and wrote about it, but yeah, I should have made myself some. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes on the podcast when we're reading a book, if food is sort of an underlying issue, sometimes we'll, like if it's something we haven't had, we'll kind of bring that on the podcast and try it on the podcast. Like we did it when we did the Chronicles of Narnia. I had never had, what was that candy in Narnia?
Turkey Delight.
Turkish Delight.
Yeah,
yes.
Turkish Delight. Yeah.
Turkish Delight. I had never had it, so I ordered a box of it and we tried it on the air. So I just love doing stuff like that.
Yeah, yep. You know, I did I posted some recipes from food items in the book. Uh-huh. Now I'm going to do coffee soup. I'm going to make coffee soup take a picture and post it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you should. Yeah, and that's one thing that's on your website. If anybody likes recipes, I did notice you do have a bunch of recipes that are sort of, I guess they were recipes that were mentioned in the book.
Yeah. So, you know, different food items like
there was
stew,
one for peach
broccoli.
Cobbler, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if for no other reason, go on her website and check out a few recipes. Where can they? What's your website? Where can they find you if they wanted to do that?
Yeah, LeslieGould.com.
LeslieGould.com. All right. Mm-hmm. So is there anything else about the book you want to talk about that I didn't bring up?
Yeah. So I mentioned the grandmothers and the circle letter. I loved writing the grandmas. And, you know, I think now I'm a grandma. My grandbabies are still little. But I really loved the chorus of grandmothers. And when Harry Met Sally, there's that chorus of older people talking about their relationships. And that's always been one of my favorite parts of that movie. And so it was so fun. And two of the grandmothers have points of view chapters. And it was just really fun to tell their stories, too.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing, and maybe I'm showing my age here. I enjoy books that are from the perspective of older people. I get so tired of reading about teeny boppers and 20-year-olds. Like, can we talk about real people with real problems?
Yeah, that's something I'm finding too as I get older. You know, like my next book in this series has the main characters are in their 30s and 40s, and I like that.
I do too. Yeah,
different
and
perspective.
It's probably because I can relate to them more because I'm 53. I turned 53 on my last birthday, so I can relate more to a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old than I can a 20-year-old.
Yeah. So, although I feel like with romances, we all still, are young at heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it can just be kind of timeless,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my goal. I don't know if it works, but that's my goal.
So again, if you like reading about people that are later in life, so to speak, this is a good series. I haven't read the first book yet. I do have it on Kindle, but I haven't read it yet. So check this out. So you mainly write Amish books, but I noticed that there is one series that you wrote that's not Amish. It looks like it's more historical fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that. In case any listeners maybe aren't into Amish, this might give some different options.
Okay, yeah. And I've actually, about half of the books I've written have been about the Amish and half not. And
okay.
So, and some of the ones that aren't are, although some of the ones that are Amish are guidepost books too. But one of the series, so I wrote a couple books in this ongoing series. And it's Love Finds You In. And the ones I co-wrote with Elizabeth Ludwig are Love Finds You in Nameless, Tennessee, and Love Finds You in Cape Disappointment, Washington. So those are both a lot of fun. I wrote a historical novella, and then Elizabeth wrote a contemporary novella that's connected to to the setting and the characters in the first novella. So that was just a lot of fun to write. I've been to Tennessee multiple times, really love that state. And then the Cape Disappointment, Washington is just about an hour and a half away from where I live. So, I'd been there before, and it was just a lot of fun to do the research up there. So, yeah, I have a, degree in history. I love history. A lot of the Amish fiction I've written has been, time slip or dual time stories where, explores like the Amish, Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War I, World War II. I even have a book that has some references to the Vietnam War. So anyway, I love history, whether it's Amish or, just general inspirational fiction.
Since history is sort of a passion for you, how much time do you spend researching before you write a book? On average.
Yeah, I'll spend a couple, weeks really just researching, gathering resources, and then I just keep researching through the entire writing process. And then, sadly, after I'm done, there have been a few times where I thought, oh, I wish I would have found this 6 months ago.
Oh, don't you hate that?
Yeah, but I just can't seem to stop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But then again, pack it back and put it in another book. So
definitely. Yeah.
So what are you reading right now?
Okay, I'm reading 2 different books, which is usually what I'm doing. So one is There's Never Enough Time. Grave Amish Secrets by Patricia Johns, which I've actually read this book before, and I'm kind of working an idea for a Amish adjacent suspense. And I thought I want to reread Patricia's book, which she's an amazing author. I love her stories. So I'm reading that right now. And then so my husband and I listen to audiobooks while we walk. Mm-hmm. We walk every day, like 3, 4, 5 miles. So it's great. You can get through books pretty quickly that way. Yeah. So we're listening to Remarkably Bright Creatures. Yeah, it's like, do I have that name right? Which is the new Netflix movie. And it was like, okay, we have to listen to this before we watch the movie. And that's by Shelby Van Pelt. Yeah, and it has an octopus in it. And we snorkel, and my husband's, a diver. I've never seen an octopus snorkeling, I don't think, but he's seen a lot diving, so.
That's why you dive, to see what you can see.
Yeah.
So do you guys like read the same book when you're walking?
Yeah, we just listen to the same.
Okay.
He puts a AirPod in one of his ears, and I put the other one in one of my ears, and yeah, we have listened to so many books that way.
Okay, now and this is why I started a Bookish podcast, because I love books. I love reading. I love talking about the books that I read to people. I don't know many people in my life that read and that like to talk about books. And so, do you guys talk about we just listened to 5 chapters. Let's sit down and talk about it. What'd you think of this? What'd you think of that? Do y'all do that?
Yeah, we do that a little bit. And then usually when we're done with the book, we'll, kind of talk through it. Yeah. Oh,
I love that. I would love to have somebody in my life that I can just sit down and talk about, but I just don't know that many readers. I don't understand people who don't like to read.
Yeah, I know. Or buy books. I have a book buying addiction.
Oh, me too. And I'm ashamed to say, I've always said I'm not going to be one of those readers that just buys and never reads. And I do have a TBR I'm like, boy, I'm still going to have a TBR when Jesus calls us home.
Yeah, and I just figure I'm preparing for retirement.
Exactly.
Right? This is my retirement plan.
Yeah. By the time retirement gets here, I'm not even going to have to buy much. They're just going to be here waiting on me.
That's
what I
always
say, a book's waiting on you. I always, when it comes to my books, people say, oh, I've got your book, but I haven't got to read it. I said, that's fine. It'll be there when you have time.
Well, I'm going to go look for your books. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're on my list now.
Are they? Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
There's nothing more that'll just warms your heart more than somebody just saying, oh, I picked up one of your books. Because that's why we do it, right? We want people to read them. So what's a genre that you rarely read?
Okay, it's science fiction. And we recently saw Project Harry see if I can say this right. Project Hail Mary.
I've got that book in my Kindle.
Okay, so we loved the movie, and now I really regret. I thought, oh, I'm probably not going to read the book. Now I totally regret not reading the book first.
You think you will? Oh, see, when it comes to stuff like that,
it's harder. Yeah.
Yeah, I always try to read the book first, but there have been times where the Crawdads Sing. I read that book when it first came out, did not like it. I didn't even finish it.
Oh.
So when the movie came out, I was like, well, I don't know if I want to watch the movie, but I didn't care for the book. But anyway, it came on Netflix, and so I watched it, and I was like, I loved the movie. So I was like, okay, now that I really enjoyed the movie, I'm wondering if I could go back and read the book and maybe enjoy it a little bit more. So,
yeah. I know. I probably won't go back and read Project Hail Mary, sadly. I don't know. There's just, I don't know. It's kind of like once you kind of know the story. But I've heard such good things about the book. I just wish I would have read it first.
Yeah. And that's sort of considered sci-fi, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's by Andy Weir, W-I-E-R or E-I-R, if anybody wants to look into it. It's not Christian fiction, but what's your favorite book of all time? And that's a hard question if you love books.
Yeah, okay, so I hope this isn't a cliche, but it would be Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Just how expansive it is, and just the story of redemption is so powerful. And justice, what is justice? So if I was stuck on a desert island with one book, I'd say give me Les Miserables. Yeah.
Can you believe I've never read it or watched it?
Oh, yeah, I can believe it, because it's a pretty big book, and it's from a long time ago.
Is it?
But just the story of redemption is so incredible. And some of the movies that have come out are good. We just saw the musical, probably like for the 5th or 6th time last month, and that's incredible. Like, if you ever have a chance to see the musical, I highly recommend it.
Okay, I will. I'll check it out. Yeah, and it's not that I have anything against it. it's not one that I just naturally would gravitate towards. So, yeah. So, all right. So, and Les Miserables, that's a good answer. Tell us a little bit about The Cousins of the Dove. That's one of your historical fictions. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
So I co-wrote that with with Mindy, and it's about the Huguenots. It's about
that's the one you just told us about.
Yeah, the French Protestant church that was persecuted under Louis XIV, and they fled. They ended up like all over the world. Some went to England and then came to the New World. Some ended up like in South Africa. There was a group in Virginia, and that's the group that we wrote about. But the story starts in 1685 in France. And we have good friends who live in France, and it turns out that their ancestors were Huguenots. And so we did a great research trip to France, and they took us to places I never would have found. I thought I found all the big sites, and they took us to places I hadn't read about at all. So that was such a fun series to write, and I loved writing with Mindy. And it's a really important story, and really part of world history, and part of church history, and became part of the U.S. history.
Yeah. How many books are in that series?
There are 3.
3. Okay. Tell us the name of those books if anybody wants to look them up.
Okay, is this
Can you
a
remember?
test?
I know.
No, I think I can. My brother's crown, my sister's prayer, and my daughter's legacy.
Listen, that can be a loaded question for an author, because I was invited to talk about one of my books on a podcast back right before the holidays, and it's been a couple years since I read it. Not about you, but once I'm done with the book, I don't go back and read my own books, very rarely, and I had to reread the book so I could talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I was at a book club one time, and someone asked me about a minor character, and I drew a total blank.
I know. Isn't it so embarrassing? You're like, did I write that character? Yeah. I don't know. You tell me about it. I want to hear what
I know,
think.
you just have
That's
to
when
laugh
Yeah.
and say,
Oh, the
give me,
laugh of the
give me
author.
more information.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so before we get off here, tell people if they want to look you up online, where can they find you?
Yeah. So lesliegould.com, start there. You can sign up for my newsletter. I have a blog. I post recipes. And then from there, you can, get the link to my Instagram account and my Facebook account. And you can also send me an email. So, go to lesliegould.com and it's
then
all
just
there.
Email you through your website?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, this
Yeah.
has been so much fun to talk to you about. Again, I enjoyed this book so much. For those of you that are listening, it's called When They Met Again by Leslie Gould, Gould. You can get it on Amazon. If you like paperback books, I will say Bethany Baker. What's
Yep.
the name of that big book? Is it Baker or Bethany? Baker.
Well,
Baker
it's
Books.
it's Baker Publishing Group, but Bethany House, is the house that I'm published under.
That you're published through. Okay.
Yeah.
Baker Books, you can go to bakerbooks.com and you can get really good prices on paperbacks there. Like a lot of
Yes.
times you can get like 30-40% off with free shipping. So if you're one of those people that don't like to buy off Amazon or whatever, Baker, I always like to push Baker Books because that's a really good site to buy paperbacks.
Yes. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's the best
absolutely.
site.
It is. I love them. I spend way too much money on them, but I think it's a good investment. Christian fiction's a good investment.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get off here?
No, just thank you so much, Brett. This has just been lovely. Yeah, very delightful.
It has. I have enjoyed
you.
talking to you so much. I always enjoy talking to my fellow authors. So, all right, listeners, well, we thank you for listening to us. Thank you for coming on, Leslie. I appreciate you so much and all the entertainment and the inspiration that you brought to so many readers over the years. We appreciate you for that. And listeners, we will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.